Hi, I'm John Billingsley, and you are listening to Beyond Track podcast.
What are some thoughts of yours towards the whole, is Star Trek getting too woke?
The idea that a show that exists to push the boundaries in terms of what is acceptable and what it should be like just part of our human condition, which is, everybody on the fucking ship, as long as you're nice. To me, it's like you can't be too woke.
Red alert.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Beyond Trek Podcast. In the room today, I've got Renzo and Big J. Today we're going to talk to you about Lower Decks episode something or other, Spy Humongous. The Pakleds come back in a big way. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
We're in episode 6, Dag.
Thank you. I really
We're
appreciate
already
that.
more than halfway through.
I know. I wish I could go back to the beginning of the season.
Once we got past episode 1, I was good. I was back on board.
Episode 1 was great.
That's just me.
I just really like that Renzo pointed out that episode 1 set the precedent that Ransom always has to screw up the crew in the first episode. I love it. I want that to keep happening.
That keeps going. Yeah.
Now, so this title, A Spy Humongous, is that a play on
the game?
Spy Among Us, or like the game Among Us?
I think the phrase predates the game by like a century.
I mean, there was that TNG episode, Lonely Among Us.
Right, Lonely Among Us.
And I think there's a little bit of both in there. I think it is definitely a play on Among Us, but it also references in this episode how the Pakleds were sort of confusing words.
Yes.
So there's that cool little tidbit in there.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to where I actually like Pakled episodes because they have made them pretty interesting, honestly.
Yeah, they're not as dumb as like you have to assume that they would be for some of their ideas to make sense, right? They seem to just have a real trouble with like communications. Like they can't explain what they want, but what they want itself is not necessarily stupid. Like sending up a spy doesn't reveal that he's a spy. He gets tricked at the end because again they're bad at communicating, but sending up a spy as a refugee or somebody who's trying to like escape, that's a decent enough plan. You just got to be a better actor, and communications are their problem, so they can't act and communicate.
Right.
I think part of their danger is their I wouldn't say inability, but their how they communicate, because they get things wrong, so they may be, I think that's what makes them dangerous. They understand things differently, and I think that hurdle in communication is what makes them kind of dangerous, because you may say something you think is completely normal and they might take it as an insult. Who knows? So that's the danger of stupidity. I hate to use the word stupid, but I can't think of.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that's got a lot of history in all of Star Trek, right? Like we've had times where Janeway straightened her shirt or something and that was insulting, or eating around a certain alien race was insulting, or Porthos peeing on a plant almost caused an interstellar incident, right? Like this has let like history to it, right? So here we've got a culture, a race that uses their inability to communicate almost to their advantage. Sometimes they play dumb and they try and do that. That's essentially the Samaritan Snare episode, is them playing dumb, right? And sometimes it is legitimately to their disadvantage, like when Freeman manages to talk them into things, or when Riker talks them into things too. So yeah, it's an interesting approach to it.
Yep.
But so let's actually start with the description of what's going on, right? So we start with a typical captain's log, which I love about this show. Starts with captain's log and starts with exterior shots of the ship almost every episode.
Can I just say how cool it is to look at these ships this way and to be able to pick out like the Romulan Warbird, the Klingon Disruptors, the Pakleds' original configuration, and whatever the heck those engines are on the back? Like, that's cool.
Tellarite. It's an oversized Tellarite tail.
From what?
Enterprise.
We've seen Tellarite ships before?
Yeah.
On Enterprise, yeah.
Guess I have to go back and watch Enterprise. I only remember like one episode.
It's not the scale, but yeah.
It's 4th season. It was either a 2 or 3-parter. It was the one where there was this cloaked Romulan drone.
Oh, the Anar. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's pretty neat though that we're seeing the chunks from their ships everywhere, or
Yeah.
the chunks of ships on these things. Definitely
Great.
with you there. But anyway, so the setup is Captain Freeman is telling or putting in the log that the Federation has sent her to negotiate a potential ceasefire to reduce Pakled aggression to the Pakled homeworld, which is named Pakled Planet, not Cardassia Prime or Andoria, nothing like with no Pakled Planet.
It
Cool.
gets to the point.
Got it. Yeah, it's
All right.
straightforward. It's also hilarious to me.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's our setup. She's sent there and she's beaming down with Shax to start the negotiation.
How does a species like this get architecture like this?
He's pretty cool looking, right?
It's
They
really
have
cool.
good.
And
They
it's
have good
gold.
architecture.
It's like refined gold.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's the thing that amazes me about the Pakleds and some of these other races, where you ask yourself, how are they able to communicate and evolve to the degree of technology to be able to do these things?
Why are we assuming this is their original planet? Right? Like they could have stolen this planet from someone too.
Oh,
for sure.
okay. All right, yeah.
But so honestly, my guess is that they probably had like a cultural regression, right? Like maybe they had a plague or something that made their communication centers of their brain go numb or something like that, but they used to be more normal and then something happened to them. That's actually my guess.
There are some
But,
listeners
yeah.
looking around the world right now going, called out.
Listen, plagues make people do crazy things, right?
Yes.
So-
I've
But
seen
yeah, some of
Idiocracy. I know how this works.
You know that firsthand.
You know, I hadn't thought of it that way. They bred themselves to stupidity. That could
Yep.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
No, so they beam down and they meet with their ambassador, Grubdin, who initially confuses Freeman with Captain Janeway, who I think is an admiral at this point anyways, but still, Captain Janeway.
Mhm.
Or maybe they're talking about the Janeway who was on the bridge of the Enterprise D in one episode.
Doubt it.
No.
I think they said Catherine anyways, but
Yeah, they did. They said Captain Janeway, just like every ship's the Enterprise.
Yep.
every ship's the Enterprise. It's true. But yeah, so they beam down and she says that she's here to negotiate a ceasefire, and Grubdin points out that, oh, my hat's not big enough for a ceasefire. I can't negotiate a ceasefire. My hat's just not big enough. Freeman is visibly annoyed, and then they get a runner from the building behind them that lets them all know that, like, hey, their prisoner has escaped. Rumdar has escaped, and he's on the Cerritos. So the Pakleds knew that Rumdar had escaped and was on the Cerritos before Freeman did, which is interesting. You'd think her crew might have, texted her.
Or it's just a total giveaway that they knew what they were doing.
It
Yes,
might
and
be.
couldn't.
Like-
They knew what they were doing, but couldn't hide it.
He literally pushed the button to beam him out and then ran out the hall.
Well, yeah, you're right. Well, but so that is pure Pakled right there. That
it
sounds
works.
very much right. Right. It works. It's like I said, they're dangerous by stupidity.
Well, that's the thing, right? If something is stupid but it works, is it actually stupid, right? Like that's the real.
Okay.
I think that's something that they want us to think about during these episodes. I thought they don't.
Right. Yeah. And I like the helmet thing. I think that is what they use for the rank, instead of having rank pips or medals or badges, et cetera. It's the helmet. It's how your
Yeah.
helmet looks.
We've all seen in dictatorial regimes when people have epaulets on their shoulders and
Yes.
a plank worth of different medals and bands and such. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's not so crazy that it would be hats. Hi, Tuvix.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, there's two Vicks, your doggy.
He's very needy at the moment. Sorry. Anyways,
He's got something to say about Pakleds. Okay.
I think he'd eat them if he had the chance. But no, so what happens is they hail up to Jack Ransom, who tells the captain that they've got a Pakled who's apparently seeking political asylum. So then Shax and Freeman are detained by Grubdin.
And political asylum. So I don't know. Now, was he? So I'm looking at the pictures here on Cygnus-x1.net, and So he was beamed up because I thought that if you're looking at the one with Ransom and
Hey, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like he took a shuttle.
And
that looks like a Pakled shuttle.
to the audience, if you're not sure what we're talking about because you're listening to us, check over on the VOD on YouTube. We have a cool background and images discussing the same things.
Yeah, as we go through it, there's little slides essentially for us to describe things.
I'm right there with you, Jay. I seriously was like, he took a ship up, which means his ship was probably en route before they beamed down. Like,
just timeline thing,
super
right?
obvi.
Yeah.
Weird.
Little obvious detail. Okay.
Yep. So then we hit the intro credits, which are as usual delightful, all the usual stuff. And our next scene, if you guys are ready for it, is in the mess hall again.
I like the mess hall scenes.
This show spends a lot of time in the mess hall.
Well, that's the socializing area. That's kind of like the cafe in Seinfeld where they're always at, or the bar in Cheers. Like this is the place where we get to learn more about. It's either here or in their bunks. So that's where you're going to get the interactions with them, which I think is great. Well, and honestly, where else are you going to hang out?
Yeah, no, I get it. It makes sense when you have a group of people who aren't spending time on the bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not in engineering all the time. They're not in the mess. The mess hall is like their equivalent. It's their place where all our main characters always meet.
Yes.
So it makes sense. It's a lot of episodes take a lot of time in the mess hall. All right. And we have Mariner and Boimler eating white goop, and Tendi and Rutherford eating brown goop, with no description provided, but it looked quite bad actually. And
Oatmeal.
they got like messages with their next duty assignments, and they have. Do you want to tell us, Dag?
I didn't actually note what that particular event was.
I like the name.
Anomaly collection or something like
Anomaly
Yeah.
cleanup.
Anomaly consolidation duty.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
that.
Which is like, it makes sense that Starfleet has this,
Yes.
right? Like, go in and make sure that Shax didn't leave any Pa-Wraith symbols from his last mission somewhere. Clean up genetic testing anomalies with Ta'ana, etc. All these things make sense, right? Somebody's got to clean this shit up and send it back to Earth for study or destruction. It makes sense.
Well, okay, to me it didn't really make a lot of sense.
Oh, why not?
I mean, why are they called anomalies?
It's the catch-all for the weird stuff that
Okay.
ships encounter, or you either encountered it and it was bad, so you brought it back to the ship for study, or you did an experiment and it was bad or good, so it stayed on the ship for study, or the crew tried to cure some kind of a cold and ended up releasing an intron virus that caused everybody on the ship to devolve. So you got a sample of that intron virus and you put it in sick bay. So now all of these things, I'm guessing, is anomaly consolidation duty comes around when a ship reports like a critical mass of these things, and they have to be offloaded to a science vessel that can secure those things and continue the study of them.
Do
Okay.
you remember Indiana Jones when they
Yes.
have those warehouse scenes where it's literally just everything the government has ever seized? It's massive like that.
The warehouse
I think
scenes,
the
Area
warehouse scenes.
51.
Were they Area 51 though?
They were.
I don't know. I thought it was under the Pentagon.
No, that's Area 51.
Okay.
I
Whatever.
mean, it's
That's-
revealed in the fourth movie that it's Area 51.
That's fair. Do we even consider that one canon though?
Yes.
We have to. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so those scenes are essentially what I think is going on here. You've probably got like a facility in orbit of Pluto or something, or maybe dug into Pluto that just contains shit you don't want getting back out
That makes sense.
forever.
I guess the way I always thought of anomaly was something in space, like a void or something spinning.
Big J,
And
you're an anomaly in space.
okay, yeah.
The Earth is in space, so you are in space, right? I don't know. It's just a name for things that are weird.
You want to say
Okay,
that to my
yeah.
face?
I'll say it to your face.
Your
in
face is
October.
an anomaly.
Pinky swear.
But yeah, so it's a fun time. I think that sounds like a fun duty. So does Tendi, but and Boimler apparently.
Boimler's
But Mariner,
jonesed on it.
Oh yeah, but Mariner is like, this is the worst. She is adamant that it sucks, and Rutherford doesn't seem too enthused about it either.
Well, I think To me, Rutherford he's the kind of character that is neither overwhelmed or underwhelmed. He's just whelmed. Just like
That's fair.
he's just kind of a even. I don't know. I can't think of who to compare him to or describe. It's just he's this even keel kind of person.
He's always reminded me of Miles O'Brien in the sense that he kind of like goes along to get along, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, so then we have our little goof up of the scene where Boymore slips and spills his white goop all over himself.
It's so funny. The dog. It could have been like it's probably white rice. They're eating white rice and brown rice. I don't know. Jambalaya.
If you liked listening to Tuvix, love this episode with us, give us a like and a follow.
Tuvix is the name of the dog. We're going to splice them out to two different
We
dogs.
give extra pats for likes and follows. He gets all the good
Yeah.
pats, but we'll
Treats.
give extra treats for likes and follows. That's
Does he
gonna
like
be
pig ears.
that's gonna be the headline for the episode. Feed
He
Tuvix.
loves pig ears.
Pig ears, good. Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, so we've got Boymore then walking away with like stuff covering him. Tendi had a good laugh at his expense, which probably stung a little bit because she's usually so kind. But you know, Boymore's walking away, and he gets intercepted by a ensign at another table, who tries to like sell him on this whole notion of like, join our group, we'll help you get promoted. One of our previous members just got promoted to the Ventura or something, and they really try and sell him on this whole idea of like, act more captainly and you can become captainly, and we'll get you acting captain's duty or try and get it for you or something, right? And in this group, we find that there's Ensign Casey, who's the dude with the curly hair, Ensign Castro, a female human, it appears. We've got Jennifer the Andorian, and the Zinti Ensign is back here as part of this little group. And they call themselves the Redshirts. Probably a shitty choice.
And Boimler gets that. But I have to ask, you know, we've done a couple of episodes on that guy, and I have to ask, is it Zinti or Kazinti?
So
I thought it
if
was
you-
Kazinti.
So if you follow the pronunciation from the Man Zin Wars, the K is silent. It's just Zin.
Oh,
But I don't know really how consistent that's going to be anywhere
All
else.
right. All right.
Yeah.
Zinti. We'll go with Zinti. There's a really cool
Yeah.
moment with the Zinti in this episode, and I love it, but we're
Yes.
not there yet.
yeah.
And if
don't
any
jump
of
ahead
you
yet.
listeners have like any sort of background on how Zinti was pronounced in some other media, let us know. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going off of how the Wing Commander movie did it too, because I think they had the same name for something, and they also called them Zinti.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
I remember correctly.
it was something very close to that.
But yeah,
think it
so
was
that's Anyways, so that's that little group of red shirts. Boymore does point it out because they are so meta aware of stuff, which I love. That it's kind of an interesting name choice.
But he gets
Yeah,
over it
so-
quickly.
Yeah, and he joins. And yeah, so they decide that they're gonna like give him a little bit of a glow up to try and make him more captainly, and out he goes, not with his normal crew.
And Mariner's like, oh, he's sucking up to those guys for a promotion. Great move, or something like that. She actually like appreciates it. But it's another abandonment moment. Like,
And she doesn't
We
like
just-
this.
we just had our drinks at the bar thing where we got over all of this, and now the very next thing we get is Boimler being like, peace out, I'm going off with these guys to suck up and get cozy shifts and get out of other duties.
Well,
I don't think it's any of that. I think it's really just the getting out of anomaly containment duty, because she hates that duty. He's found a way out of that duty, and irrespective of the rest, that's worth it, I think, for her.
Well, or is it more that he aims to please and he just kind of goes with wherever the river is going, he's just following it. If he was going to do this anomaly containment duty, he was going to do the anomaly containment duty. But because this guy walked up to him and offered this thing, Boimler is very non-confrontational, very passive. So when approached like that, if that guy hadn't come up, well, of course he would have went to anomaly containment duty. But I just think that he's on that raft and he's just going where the river goes, and he probably doesn't do it intentionally. I don't think he knows about Mariner's abandonment issues and so forth, but what is he going to do about it? This guy is talking to him about this club, and so he can't turn him down, can't say no because he's non-confrontational.
Peer
Well, the
pressure.
other thing is he is peer pressure sensitive for sure.
Oh,
But he
yeah.
also has some ambition, right? Like it's made Boimler is if nothing else, he wants to be a captain. Like that is his life's goal, right? So if he's got an opportunity here to get some experience in that, some way of recovering his rank that he lost when he left the Titan, that might help him out. And this group of 4 people is definitely stroking his ego a little bit by asking about like, what was it like with Riker? What was his chair like? How did he go this? How did he do this? What did he think of this? And he's got answers to this, which makes him the center of attention, which is great for anybody's ego. So all that fits for me. It works. It makes sense.
Well, he's probably having an identity issue because he is a transporter clone.
One of them is a transporter clone. All right, and then our next scene is where we break to Ransom and Kayshawn, who's back and who's speaking, like who has the same voice actor, so it's not like we lost that. There were a couple good Tamarianisms in there.
Oh yeah.
They're escorting Rumdar around, and Ransom is doing the whole like diligent host thing. Like, all right, so why are you seeking asylum? Is it like religious persecution? Are you leading a rebellion? Like, tell us about your needs, right? And Rumdar tells me he just wants to know how their shields work.
Straight up.
And then he just starts taking pictures, and was Ransom said, I think he just
With a
took
hidden
a picture of a
camera.
shoe.
Yeah.
And a wristwatch. And I didn't catch what with the what's his name? Why did I keep
Kayshawn?
forgetting his name? Yeah, Kayshawn. Said something about, are you getting, and he used a metaphor,
He says,
vibes.
"Are you getting Basminti when he pulled back the veil vibes?" Which is a reference to a spy being revealed.
I like how they're incorporating their metaphors into just that casual language.
Yeah, and that makes sense too, right? Because yeah, he's probably learned enough Federation Standard or Federation Basic to get by, clearly. But every now and then, the metaphor contains more meaning, and if Ransom knows some of their metaphors, it's a good way to tell a story without having to tell the whole story.
Well, and it's not like we don't use metaphors.
It's true.
If you remember in Star Trek Into Darkness,
No,
Kirk had
used one a
finally
couple minutes
kind of
ago. The raft. You were describing like being on a raft going with the flow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a metaphor, right?
Yep.
It's super common. Yeah.
Yeah, and because in that movie, Kirk even kind of got fed up with McCoy and the metaphors he said, and stop it with the metaphors. That's an order. So we do it, we use it, and when we use those metaphors, we know what we're talking about. So really, they speak like what we do part of the time. They do it full time.
Yeah, like meme culture is essentially Tamarian speak, right? Like if I'm responding to something with like smiley faces and then an eggplant, I think there's a reason why I'm doing that. I'm hinting at something, right? The eggplant has some meaning, right? Same thing here. Zinti with his eyes closed means something, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Bazinti when he pulled back the veil. But another cool thing about it, it's a really easy way to communicate a reference to somebody in code.
Yes.
Like if you have a shared mythology and you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand that mythology, you can be like Achilles when he got shot in the ankle. Like
Right.
that's our
And
weakest
there's-
link.
I have zero inclination to believe that the Pakleds have any idea how Tamarian language works.
Right.
Like,
No,
that's
no.
that's
Yeah.
definitely beyond them.
They're having a trouble. They probably don't even have really their own cultural language in that
Yeah.
context. So they'd have to develop the cultural language, then do something significant enough that would be referenced in that language to become common enough to be just a term that you would use, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
one thing that this episode definitely tries to get us to do is don't underestimate the Pakleds, right? But I don't think I'm underestimating them by thinking that they would struggle with the concept of Tamarian language, because they struggle with language, right? Like communicating their ideas is something they seem to be very bad at. Now you add the additional like layer of abstraction that you have to like think the way they think and think in their metaphors.
Yep.
I think that they would not be able to communicate. It'd be pretty rough for them both. But yeah, so Freeman and Kayshawn come to the conclusion that this guy's a spy. He's a shitty spy. He's taking pictures of his feet. So he calls down Freeman to let her know that the guy's not really a refugee. He's really just a spy. He's not a good one. And her directive is keep them talking, see if you can find anything as to why they're attacking Federation space in the first place, right? Valid, makes sense. Milk the guy for info.
For sure.
And then we go back to a scene with Mariner, Tendi, and the group.
Yeah, they are in the middle of their anomaly consolidation.
I thought that now there were several anomalies they went through. I know that they were probably references to things in other episodes. And for a brief moment, when Rutherford is looking at the desk and those crystals are there, I wanted to think those must be Infinity Stones.
The colors are wrong, but yeah, I get what you're going with it.
Well, all that means is that they just never acquired the Soul Stone or the which one's the yellow one?
The
Mind
Stone.
Stone. Right.
So fortunately, those wonderful folks at Reddit who figured out all of the same things in this really cool list of deep cuts. Most of us were like astonishingly refreshed that most of these anomalies are not direct reference to really anything previously. There's a couple of them, but we can talk about them when we get to them.
Okay. I do want to say I continue to appreciate the fact that Lower Decks makes it clear that the Enterprise is not the only ship that finds weird shit out there. Right?
Yeah.
Every ship has its own stories. No, the Cerritos is not as fancy as the Enterprise, but they still find stuff that could destroy a civilization on the regular enough that they have to have anomaly collection duty.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So they're moving around some crystals unlabeled, which they note, right? Like Ransom didn't even label these crystals kind of thing. They put them into storage containers, and then there's this jaw of a reptile is what it looks like, but it's a frog's jaw apparently.
It's a frog's jaw, but it looks like Squirtle.
Yeah, it
like,
does.
Up, man.
I can't not see Squirtle there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
What's sad?
Just a dead Squirtle. Just the very idea of them.
No. You're missing the thing. It's sad that there's a dead Squirtle on Ransom's desk, but Squirtle exists in Star Trek now. So there's a whole planet out there that has little Squirtles. Is it the planet of Pokemon? Can we visit Pokemon World? Gotta catch them all.
Now.
Did Ransom catch
this?
Did Ransom catch this Squirtle? Did he win a fight? How do Pokemon tournaments go? I don't know. I don't play Pokemon. I just know
you don't kill them.
I know 4 Pokemon by sight.
I don't know. I'm with you that it looks kind of like a Bulbasaur, more so than a Squirtle. But yeah, it looks like that. Anyways,
Bulbasaur. That's exactly it's in my brain.
Is that the one you thought you were saying?
That's the one I thought I was saying.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so it looks like a little cool Bulbasaur skull, which makes sense because it is the skull of a large frog of some kind. Rutherford then warns that it's from a planet with weird evolution or something. But they accidentally drop it, and the skull dissolves into a green mist that Rutherford inhales, and it makes him Hulk out, which is unfun. It looked like. Mariner tells Tendi to grab this red vial or something, and they smear it on his face, and he shrinks back down after wrestling with them a little bit. So not only is anomaly collection duty something that has to happen, there are responses to different things that are so well understood that they come prepared. Oh, there's going to be something mutagenic in here. Make sure you bring the red vial or something, right? It's so commonplace. So,
well,
I have what's left of the red vial.
What was in that? Like a changeling blood sample?
No. I have a hypo spray. And it has
Jeez,
a cool
you have
little
everything.
thing, and
that's awesome.
you pop it in there. And I play a doctor on Tuesday nights, so I have all the medical stuff now. He's a Dojin. I even have the third arm sewed into the shirt. It's great.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Dag does not play around.
No, he doesn't. When he plays around, he doesn't play around.
Beat me by that much.
But yeah, so Rutherford is turned back to normal, and then they notice that Boimler and the Redshirts are walking by, talking about Riker, and they literally ask Boimler, how often does he clean his trombone? It's another one of those eggplant level references, I think.
Oh, please tell me it's not true.
But then Boimler goes off and says often, almost too often, it was distractingly often. And now with your little metaphor there, eggplant.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was fun. And they walk past another scene with Rumdar and Keyshawn and Ransom just outside of the Cerritos' gift shop. Love that.
A gift shop.
So you remember
Really?
that the Discovery crew had Discovery teas, right?
Yeah.
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 The
So
disco ones. I like those.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so the idea that there's like a ship's exchange or something fits pretty well, right? You just replicate some stuff and have it there if you have guests on ship. Cool.
Well, we've
whatever.
seen episodes like this. I feel like in at least one of the series where they go to a ship's store for uniforms or some kind of clothing, and I can't remember if it's a Voyager or an Enterprise. I feel like it's a
store on the
Voyager.
ship.
There's like it's like a. There are these little
Maybe about, like,
pillars.
Garrix and such.
No, but like that's like a. This was way more utilitarian. There were these pillars, and on the top of the pillars there were clothing samples, and they would pick it up and then put it back down, and they'd be like, "Yes, this is the uniform I want," and something. I remember this. I don't
There's a scene
remember
like
what it
that
was
in the
from.
Orville that I remember, but I don't remember one in TNG or anything.
Crap! It's the Orville, isn't it? Dang it!
Because there's a cool scene where the husband of the second officer is looking for something, and he's like making different pillows or something, and they have like weird replicators that go up and down or something, and he's looking at fabric samples there, but I don't remember anything like that in Trek. It might be there. I'm not
I don't even remember that from the Orville. If it was in the Orville.
That scene was definitely in the Orville. I remember it
okay.
because they have a fight about it.
We're adopting the Orville like we adopt Galaxy Quest. You're on honorary
Trek.
Star Trek.
Cool. So, anyways, they mentioned that since now they're done with the top secret gift store, they're going to go look at other things. And Rumdar asks about seeing the warp core next. And Keyshawn have a laugh. They talk to each other. They
A temporal anomaly strikes.
which is a reference to Samaritan Snare, which I love. And then they start talking amongst each other, underestimating the Pakled again, and he's gone. He escapes. He's gone. We don't know where he's gone. The computer is asked to locate him. The computer cannot locate him, which should be concerning. He's a spy on the ship. You know he's a spy, and somehow the computer can't find him. But they don't call for like a yellow alert. They don't alert security. They don't do anything. They just start running around trying to find the guy.
But yeah, you're telling me that a guy this size can just sneak off and disappear like he's Batman? You know, you have
Maybe
a conversation,
he
you turn
has-
away, look back again, he's gone.
Maybe it's technological, right? Maybe he's got a device that like blocks him from being detected by the ship's internal sensors. I'm not saying the Pakleds invented it. Maybe they bought that from someone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they were standing at an intersection of hallways. I don't see how he got away
Yeah.
when there's eyes on. It's
Neither did they.
Listen, people are really bad about paying attention to things when they're locked in a conversation. Like, I see this all the time. People who don't pay attention where they're walking, they'll walk into shit all the time. Watch people on their phones at intersections.
Oh God,
It is
yes.
terrifying what people are doing. Here you've got Keyshawn and Ransom bragging about how dumb the Pakled is, turn their backs on him while they like snicker about him behind their backs, and the Pakled's gone. Going back to that theme of maybe be careful how you underestimate them.
Right.
Yes.
We learn later in the episode what exactly happened to him, and it's not very impressive, but the fact that he didn't get
Shaka.
away from them is still bad. Cool. Next scene.
We're with
is...
Tendi, Rutherford, and Mariner on our way to our next collection.
Yeah, these are a bunch of little vignettes of them just doing things. Nothing too no long conversation or anything, just like them going to different rooms, grabbing stuff.
Interesting
And having
moment
just
where
different odd things happening.
interesting moment where Mariner goes to smell a plant and the plant attacks her.
Yeah.
Like what happened in the Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Spock went in for a smell and got tased.
So
got
that's
high.
that's this side of Paradise, where they got high. The Apple was the one with Vol and the attacky plants that killed the Redshirts. So this is an interesting moment there, and the plant here even gives off that TOS alien vibe too.
Leadership, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Its ongoing mission to develop leaders through Star Trek, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. a Star Trek podcast told through the lens of leadership development. Subscribe today. The Starfleet Leadership Academy.
You know what it actually reminds me of? So this is an obscure one. This is the deep cut for like reference, right? There is a Star Trek video game called Star Trek Generations, which was supposed to be like the movie Generations, and it did cover all the content of the movie, but it also covered a whole lot of like additional stuff, right? In one of the planets that you visit while looking for the Klingon sisters and where they were hiding their planet, like their base was, you go to a planet that has biological plant attack things all over that looked a lot like these dudes. And they definitely sprayed at people's faces, and it came as like a little cloud of like needles, and you'd have to get out of the way.
Can you, like, that's a hugely deep cut. Like, that's like a through and through.
I haven't played that game.
Can you find? Do you have that game still? Can you find an image of that?
I don't know if I can find an image. It's pretty deep in the game, but I can try and look for it.
Okay. Well,
here's where it's different though. They weren't just plants. The planet that you were on, you didn't realize at the time, was actually a living organism. It was like a whole thing, and that was part of its like immune system. You didn't know that at the time at the beginning of the episode, but it looked a lot like this.
they may not know it by this time. It's just a great cut.
Cool.
That's only 10 years prior to this. Like,
yeah, those plants went all
that's
perfume at the mall.
That's hugely cool right there.
Cool. So one thing that they are setting up though is that Tendi tries things. Tendi doesn't get attacked, but the next person to touch anything that she's touched is the one who gets messed up.
Right.
Because remember, Tendi had been playing with the frog skull thing. Then Rutherford gets hulked out. In the first one, she's smelling the flower. Then Mariner goes to smell the flower, and Mariner's the one that gets the stings that have to get pulled out painfully.
So,
and then
take a look at the image where Mariner's getting shocked by the clock.
Yes.
She's like in the air. So look over to the left-hand side of that. In the background, there's a little red beam on a device there. That that is a total reference to that. It's a piece of tech that's in every tech scene whenever they need it in TNG, sometimes in DS9, sometimes even on Voyager. Like the prop itself, I think it has its own memory alpha page for appearances, and I think somebody even did a YouTube video that was like, and this thing that was on the Enterprise somehow ended up in the Delta Quadrant 75,000 light years away. And I'm just like, so it's a cool moment here where it's totally background, nobody cares except us.
You know, the vibe that I get from all the stuff that's happening to Mariner is very much a Dragon Slayer vibe. You guys remember that game, Dragon Slayer? It was a arcade game. I believe I played an emulator for the PC, but it's all animated, and it's one of those things where your guy is like this knight. He's there to save the princess, and he walks into a room, and what you have to do is at the right time, like press left or right, or up. You have to trigger these things that take you along in the story. It's like watching an animated movie, but if you mistime something or do something wrong, then you get like a death scene kind of thing that corresponds to what you're trying to avoid. If you haven't, look it up. Dragon Slayer. It's awesome. Slayer.
Wicked.
So we're in Lab 4006 with the red thing in the background, and they're moving on this thing that looks like a big old clock. Tendi's the one carrying it, still looking excited and smiling while doing so. She almost drops it. Mariner catches it. Mariner gets shocked to hell with purple lightning, hair frizzed out on all ends. Doesn't look fun. Looks pissed when she hands it back to Tendi, and they continue to Lab 4007. So they have a whole lot of labs that they're looking at on this stuff.
More crystals, more troubles.
It's true. But in this case, they've got a vial of something that Tendi carelessly kind of tips over and pours it onto Mariner, and it becomes like a jello goo thing that like sticks her to the ceiling.
And again, there's that prop in the background. Just different lab.
There it is.
Yeah. And Tendi has to fire her phaser at her to get it to release, and she just plops down onto the ground in like a puddle of purple goo or pink goo.
Okay, seriously, in peacetime, officers and crew are not walking around with phasers.
but they might for
For
anomaly
this
collection
lab.
duty.
Right.
No, for anomaly collection duty, they might have it though.
Because they've got that vial.
They're going prepared, man.
I bet you anomaly collection duty literally has like lists of people. All right, in Science Lab 4007, you're gonna get the pink goo. Try not to pour it on anything, but if you do, use a phaser to dislodge it. And yes,
On this setting, yeah.
right. And
Okay.
yes, it'll work on people. They'll be fine. And then you have to think for yourself. Wait, how do they know that?
Right.
These things have to have happened before, right?
Right.
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
cool.
Totally.
So we go to the next one, and both Rutherford and Mariner are looking pretty like fed up with this, and Tendy's just like slightly ashamed that she's put her friends through it, but she's still like into it. And we return back to the planet. We are back on Pakled planet.
This golden helm of Sauron is their base. It's crazy.
It looks really cool. I like the architecture for it. It looks cool.
Oh yeah.
And the Pakled are now offering Freeman some food.
It's like
some
rotten
mush fruit or something.
Yeah.
Or mushroom.
Yeah. She turned down the mushroom.
I think I would probably too.
Yeah.
Who's the lady that came out with the Pope-looking hat?
The Queen.
What
Oh.
if the
It's
mushroom
cheese.
is what is making them the way they
Dumb.
are?
Maybe it mushes their brain.
Maybe.
Well, interesting revelation. If that's
What
what happened.
What if in ancient Pakled there was like a sect of really smart and capable Pakleds who started feeding mushroot to the other Pakleds, who got so fed up with literally like no joke, but like ended up just wiping out the smart Pakleds because there were way more dumb ones that just overwhelmed the rest of the society.
Dag, the cloud miners. Ardana, right? Remember how the gas that they were mining made the workers dumb? The people who lived in the city were kept intelligent?
Yeah.
It's the opposite here. Their food is making them dumb.
Wow.
Could be it.
And the
That's-
smart
that's
Pakleds
good.
just moved off world, and maybe they are in the space somewhere, and they're like, well, hello, yes, those are our ancient cousins. We left long ago because they couldn't, there was a pandemic and they wouldn't wear masks, and so we left.
Only we had the same option, right? But yeah, so they ask again to talk about a ceasefire with the Queen who's just showed up. They greet her as Janeway again, and the Queen reports that she can't solve that problem. She needs a bigger hat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Freeman is again still pissed, and they demand rather that Freeman and her crew not kill Rumdar, that they get to kill Rumdar instead. So
Is
Freeman hails up to the ship. Oh, go ahead.
Is this the first Pakled woman we've seen? The Queen?
So
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. First one. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the first one we've seen. Of course, we knew that they had to be
Well,
there.
of course, but
Did we?
it's a milestone.
Did we?
It's a milestone moment.
I don't think we should assume that they had to have women beforehand.
How do you think Pakleds were born?
How do you think
How do they
Jem'Hadar were
procreate?
born?
Well, yeah, they were made in a lab.
They could
But-
have alternative replicational means, right? Like reproductive means don't have to be A and B. There are other options.
What if there's like a Landru AI that's just cloning Pakleds from a genetic stock that was replaced?
What if when you cut a Pakled in two, you end up with two Pakleds
Whoa.
Yeah.
and half the IQ?
So do you have like half a Pakled eggplant emoji then?
All right.
Hmm.
So, anyways, they call up Ransom and are like, "Hey, Ransom, put on Rumdar so we can prove that he's alive." Proof of life is a typical thing with a hostage situation.
Mhm.
And Ransom tells him that Rumdar is gone. They don't know where he is, and Freeman looks real pissed again, and tells the Queen that Rumdar's fine. He told us to tell you that to negotiate the ceasefire or whatever.
And she
but yeah.
says the same thing. My helmet's not big enough for a ceasefire, which leads me to really believe that like they're literally thinking that the helmets will stop fire. That's what we're asking. Do you have a ceasefire? Can we get a ceasefire? And no, my helmet won't stop fire. I need a bigger helmet.
Yeah, again, another misunderstanding of the language. The Pakleds may be thinking about literal fire.
Yeah,
And
I
they-
don't think so. I think they're just using it as an excuse to buy themselves time. Remember, their plan, as they reveal at the end, is we're just going to spy on the ship to get info. I
Yeah.
think it was just a time buying thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You okay there, Dag?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Yeah, so we go back to the Cerritos. Casey and the Redshirts are giving Boimler his makeover. It's very pretty woman kind of thing. They're standing around like the mirror.
There's some cool stuff on the clothing rack off to the
Yes.
side there. I think I see like maybe a Kess top and then a Quark jacket. There's a dress
Neelix
uniform.
one, I think.
And then there's some kind of like maybe like a Chewbacca suit. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
this Zinti ensign does my favorite thing of the episode. I watched this at the gym while like doing cardio, and I bust out laughing while watching this scene. So half the Zinti that we saw in TAS were like these real hunched over looking dudes with their ears kind of flapped down, and it looked very pathetic, right?
Mhm.
And he imitates that look.
Yes.
He does like a sadder voice when he does it too.
Yeah.
And then he straightens back up and
His whole
looks
point
like
there.
this-
Yeah, his whole point there is to like his Boimler slouches, and he's like, you don't want to slouch. There's no commanding of presence there. You want to be tall.
Yeah,
I
so it just-
Totally
I
emulates
laughed
that
out loud.
appearance. That was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic, honestly. And it was well written too, right? Like the idea that you have to teach a character or teach a person to just like stand with authority makes sense.
There's some fatigues back there on the hanger.
On the right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys notice that the animation for the mirrors also showed you the people who were behind too? Like it wasn't like carelessly animated at all. They put a lot of thought into the animation for that.
Yes, a lot of good attention to detail. I did notice that.
Yep. And then we've got Jennifer who decides that his uniform needs to change. Like posture's not enough. We need to change your uniform. And Boimler's like, it's a uniform.
Okay, weird moment.
We all wear the same one.
Weird moment, and I wouldn't have thought about it if you hadn't have pointed out the mirror. Are you looking at the image where Jennifer's standing behind him and he's looking at her in the reflection?
No, I was talking about it from the one before where he's looking at Casey
Right.
through the mirror behind him.
Right. So go to the one with Jennifer.
Yeah.
And in the front panel, Boimler's eyes are aimed towards his comm badge looking at Jen. And in the next panel over, the eyes should be looking the same direction, but they're looking at Jen too, away from his comm badge.
The mirrors are angled.
But the eyes should be pointed the same direction. The comm badge is still on the right side.
Oh, I see. You're right. The flipping on it is wrong.
The eyes
Yeah.
should be looking the other way, and his nose is tweaked the other way, and his hair is tweaked the other way.
The comm badges and everything else is good. So the
The
comm badge
combat-
is the fuck up.
Yeah, the clothes are fine.
Yeah.
It's the face that's jacked.
Well, I would have gone the other way. I thought it would have been the other way around. The face should flip. Because, well, no, the face should be the same. You're right.
You guys are such Trek beards.
It's no, I don't care. I think it's
This
impressive
isn't even a
because
Trek
mirror stuff
problem.
at all.
This is an animation thing. This is like the animators
Yeah.
made a tiny little, or his transporter clone is stalking him through the mirrors.
Well, we had that scene in Discovery where we saw like the evil Stamets looking at Stamets brushing his teeth.
Yep, you're right.
Do we have an evil mycelial Boimler?
How bad could that be?
Oh.
All right, so Jennifer makes fun of his clothes. Jennifer makes fun of his hair. Boimler doesn't care about defending his clothes, other than to say that we all wear the same uniform. But he defends his hair. He likes his hair. It's cute. Yeah, it's pretty cute. It's fine. But Casey challenges him, like, "Do you want to be a captain or not?" And so he goes through with it. And then we get the reveal where he's wearing a shirt that is uncomfortably tight. Looks like they have inserts in there. Those don't look like. He's wearing shoulder pads, and he's got his hair slicked back.
It's got to be something because even though it was a tight uniform, he looks like he's built, and you know that he's not. So
He's probably wiry, but he's
Shoulder
definitely
pads
not
for
like
sure.
muscly. Those are absolutely shoulder pads. I have a uniform with those. They make me look like that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so he flexes in the mirror. It's probably the first time that Boimler has had like enough self pride to do something like that. And him and the Redshirts walk out and bump right into the lower deckers on their anomaly collection duty. And
That drops some stuff out of the hover cart.
Tendi goes over and compliments his new look. and they start chit-chatting, and he comments on the thing that was in the bottle that she spilled onto Mariner that was purple goop. So he's very much in tune with what these artifacts are, and he probably would have been very helpful to have on this mission, but instead he was getting a makeover.
And it was a good makeover.
But Mariner gives him the eyes. Like, Mariner makes it very clear you should have been here. But yeah. Then his little red shirt buddies like give him shit for talking to his old friends, and off he goes while they're cleaning up a nanite spill.
I got to tell you guys a funny story. It's just random. So many years ago, this is probably late 90s, early 2000s. I was visiting home. My two nieces were there. They were young. I want to say each of them were under 10 at the time. Just out of nowhere, one of them looked at me and said, "Uncle Jeff, you look like you should be on one of those extreme makeover shows." I couldn't believe. I'm like, "What? Oh my God!" Yeah, it's like that was a. I mean, that was a good one. That was a good.
Kids are cruel, man.
That was sharp. That was deep cut right there. Oh yeah. It
All right,
was.
so
Cleaning up nanites.
yes, cleaning up nanites. And they literally with just their bare hands scoop it back into like this container, and Rutherford comments that they can calculate warp trajectories, but what was the other part of it? But they can't stop themselves from replicating or something.
Huh.
I don't.
It was something like that.
I'm-
It was something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, then we see that the nanites are literally consuming Mariner's hand. She looks very upset, and she makes it clear to Tendi that Tendi being so positive is driving her crazy.
I have a note about Mariner to say at the end of the episode that I thought was interesting
Okay.
for this episode. So
We'll remind
stay
you.
tuned if you're still listening.
We cut back to Kayshawn and Ransom, who are still running around looking for Rumdar,
Yep.
who's gone. And then we get back to another awkward Boimler training for captaincy moment where they're trying to get him to give a captainy speech, like a motivational speech. And they have like a stage set up and everything. And they're all just sitting there like critics at a theater performance. He
I
gets
like
his
that
first
we
shot.
still have fold-out chairs.
Yeah.
You
I noticed
fold-out
that.
chairs in Trek before.
We probably have, but we still have them,
It looks like he's at an open mic session.
right?
Yeah,
Or like a poet moment.
maybe it's
thing.
on the holodeck.
It could be a nightclub. It's just not
Yeah.
open that night.
Yeah, or they're on shift, so it's probably during the day, I guess.
Totally
But I guess that
missed.
means
Totally missed a cameo reference by Joe Piscopo. Would have been perfect to have the comedian show up.
Oh man.
oh yeah.
If you remember him from when Data was trying to be funny and on stage.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Ah, the days. Could have had that, didn't.
Yeah,
I like
so
that his calves
Boimler-
are padded.
Yeah, it looks very uncomfortable what he's wearing. But yeah, so Boimler gives his little speech. It falls flat. Casey gives him this little pep talk about like, imagine what Riker would say, and then he starts talking from the heart again, and it's actually really good. And he gets this like dramatic lighting out of nowhere, and then he's like on the bridge of the Enterprise D, the swooping arch, everything. It's all there, and he gives like a real good rousing speech, and it worked out just fine. And then we cut back to him sitting in the chair, and like the 4 other red shirts are standing around him. Very dramatic, very much something that happens in a TV show, like in somebody's head. It's an imagination scene. Cool. And then he gets some claps. I was expecting snaps, but he got claps from the 4 other red shirts, and he's happy.
Mm-hmm.
There are 5 lights.
Oh, too soon.
There are 5 lights. I didn't catch that.
There are 5
Probably
lights.
not an intentional.
There are.
Probably
Yeah.
not unintentional. I mean, it makes sense for a stage to have lighting like that. I just noticed it right now. I'm like, oh, there are 5 lights. Oh, that's actually meaningful in Star Trek. Ha! That's also the first appearance of the Enterprise D in an animated format.
I don't see 5 lights.
And
There are 4.
nope, never mind. It's not the first appearance of the Enterprise D since Generations, because we've seen it in a couple of other things as references or dreams. But it's the first appearance of the bridge as an animated format for the D.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a nice thing. It looks great. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It always has been.
I want that set piece for a background. Like, that'd be great. Like a zoom
Then we
background.
Oh, yeah. We cut back to the lower deckers and their cleanup duty, and they reach Miglimo's office, where when they look inside, it's just a pile of looks like trash. There are like kids' books, jars, something that looks like a toilet plunger. Like it looks bad.
One
And-
interesting thing, I know this is weird, but there's a stuffed but bunny in the thing.
Kukulaka joke?
No, Kukulaka was not a bunny. It was a teddy bear.
No, it was a teddy bear, but
But
yeah.
I think we have seen a bunny before, when they were evacuating the Enterprise D.
Oh, the kid that dropped it.
Jordy
Yeah.
picked up that
Girl.
little girl, and I think she dropped a stuffed bunny. Viewers, listeners, if you know differently, comment and correct me. But that was my brain on
I
drugs.
think that was a teddy bear.
There's also an Uhura earpiece just lying there. Wow, the more I look at this, the more I see. A flux coupler? A TOS tricorder?
Yes. There are some things that look like tendrils. There's some things that look like meditation orbs. There's all sorts of stuff.
This is great. Miglimo is a hoarder.
A hoarder.
in the book, Three Little Pigs.
Yep.
So Tendi loses her cool for a moment and like snaps back at Mariner and Rutherford that if you guys don't want to do this duty, fine, I'll do it myself. Never a good phrase to say, especially when it's your first time doing the thing.
Mhm.
So she goes over, picks up a book, like picks up some weird goggle thing, a partial sword that's been snapped, and like just starts reading from this Three Little Pigs book. And then magically three pig creatures come out of it.
Because of course.
Because yes.
Could be worse.
And why not?
Could have been Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh yeah.
Could have been Mr. Mistleplex.
Not like we haven't seen Rumpelstiltskin before
Could have been Candyman.
from a fairy tale book. Oh God. Well, Candyman was voiced by Tony Todd, so everything's good, right?
Yep, Kern
Yeah.
from TNG and DS9.
Love him.
Oh,
So,
and
yeah.
he was okay, well now I'm gonna get us
Old Jake.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I stopped myself
Yep.
before I went on one of my tangents.
Tangents are fine. Tangents are fine. People like our tangents,
You
right?
know, Miglimo was actually really nice. He just left it all on the table. It just looked like he had it all over the place, but it was just the table.
Yeah, from the different angle you can see how much it is.
Do
But yeah, so Tendi ends up wrestling with the three pig monster things while they're smashing his office. She's literally riding one on the back. And while they're doing it, she accidentally knocks over like a jar with an orange goop inside. And this is my favorite part of the episode. Maybe. I really liked this. And it like grows and animates to a gigantic orange slug monster thing with bright blue eyes that just like looks pretty happy, to be honest, until it eats her. It slurps her in, and Mariner's yelling at her, "Don't get digested in there," which is great. She doesn't stay in there very long, because she comes right out, and the monster looks like it's having a hard time pressing it out.
Okay.
But she goes right out, and she now hates Anomaly Collection duty.
Oh yeah.
Pull up image 233 on that one.
No, I'm not going back to the butthole.
But on 231, you see what I mean by it's clearly that he's pushing. Like, it's a Chipotle kind of day. For this-
Right,
for this
yeah.
Oh God, no! Don't
Chipotle.
say that about my Chipotle. Come on.
But we also get validation here again for the third time that they have the right equipment to take care of this if it gets out of hand.
Yep, because she had the hypo spray and knew what to do with it, too. And then it
Done.
gets
Kinda
shrunk
looks
back
like
down to
a-
small size.
Spaghetti
And the
monster.
The look of devastation on her face as she got pooped out of this thing.
It's terrible. It's
And
absolutely
then she,
terrible.
like, huddles in a ball, like, while recovering afterwards, right? Like, some PTSD is there.
Ugh.
Though, to be fair, in this scene now, we see Rutherford with bags under his eyes. We see Mariner with her hair out of place and looking pretty frazzled.
Uh-huh.
And Tendi is covered in
Goo. Just
slug goo.
goo.
Slug goo.
Goo.
Oh no, it's
Um,
not goo. It's
oh.
slug shit.
I said goo because it rhymes.
There goes.
So it's fine.
There goes
Okay.
the kids rating. Sorry.
Yeah.
We had a boo boo word.
So we cut back to the Pakleds, and we've got Freeman and Shax still surrounded by a bunch of guards who think they're holding them captive. And the Pakled Queen is still there, and then the Pakled Emperor shows up, who has an even bigger hat. Much bigger hat.
And a beard.
He does have a beard, that's true. I think he's the first Pakled we've seen with a beard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, but then there's a guy with an even bigger hat that comes out after him.
All the
See
big
the dude
helmets.
I'm talking about?
They
No.
just came with rank. There was the king and the emperor. The king has the beard. The emperor does not have a beard.
Right.
Oh, you're right.
Yes. With his
Man.
entourage of bodyguards behind him with
Faceless bodyguards.
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely they have the presentation
a-
well.
I don't remember there being a difference between the king and there being an emperor. I thought it was just the emperor.
No, there was the queen, and then the king
Right.
showed up, and she was like, "Finally, I can ask the question." And then the emperor showed up, and it rendered the whole situation moot. They have no concept
Oh,
of caring
you're
about any
right.
of that. There's nothing that means anything anymore, and then it all gets interrupted anyway.
Yeah, the assassins show up and kill him. And take his hat and put it on.
He is strong. Total throwback to the original.
Yeah.
He is smart. Okay, so they have a bit of a revolution, which was kind of expected. You know, they kind of hinted at it from the very beginning of the episode by saying, like, are you trying to foment a revolution on the planet kind of thing? So, cool. There were some hints to it. I
There's
like
an
that.
interesting moment there where they're like, "We will no longer answer to helmets," and then he puts the helmet on and he's like, "Oh, I like this helmet," and suddenly he's the leader because he has the helmet on. Oi,
Well, it's shiny. I can see why he likes it.
I'm
So
still
those
loving
Pakleds-
these establishing shots. The ships
Yeah.
are beautiful. It's so nice.
I wish we got more of that in the other shows as well, to be honest, right? Like, just show me what Discovery looks like in a nice, well-lit scene for a good, pretty couple seconds in orbit of a planet, right? Like, that makes me
Yeah,
happy.
I need my TMP new Discovery scene, please. Give
We
it to
don't
me.
need it every episode, but give
No.
it to us, like, once a show.
I don't need
at
every
least.
episode. I just need one. Where like they've been on the station debriefing after the last mission for like 3 months, discoveries and mothballs, and they're like, "All right, fine, you can go back out." And we get our little shuttle tour of Discovery in season 4, where we can actually see some of the really cool details they've gone through on that. That'd be so good.
I agree.
Yeah, just think about the model work that went into making the TMP Enterprise, right? Like, that was a physical model that was crazy detailed. It was huge, and they showed it off.
Yeah, they
Oh
did.
right.
yeah, with all that work.
Same thing with V'ger, right? The V'ger model was massive. I think it was like 9 feet long.
Yeah.
It was a huge amount of effort, and it was shown off in the movie. Cool. We've seen it in TNG. We've seen it in DS9's intro cinematic is showing off their model,
Mhm.
right? So, cool. We've never had anything like that really for Discovery or for the La Sirena, right? Like, both those designs are pretty cool. We only ever seem to see the La Sirena when it's going to warp and flying away from the camera really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, give me some glory shots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we cut back to Boimler now walking all authoritatively in charge of the Redshirters, and he sees Tendi and the rest of the group like working, and he's like, "I'm gonna go say hi to like my friends or whatever," and they try to talk. They essentially tell him you can't do that. You don't want to go to their level, right? And Tendi is now still pissed, still hating anomaly collection duty, and she picks up a cube, which we learn is a Ataxian mood shifter.
Looks like a pink energon cube.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And as
More
soon as
than
she starts
meets
getting-
the eye.
as soon as she starts talking, the thing starts glowing like an energon cube, and
Yeah.
it starts merging into her chest, and then her eyes start glowing, and she's getting more and more pissed, and she starts turning into a monster.
Do you remember the pink
Eh.
slime from Ghostbusters 2 that was mood influenced?
Yes, the mood slime.
Yeah.
Mhm. Good reference there. Yeah, you're right. So this one reacts to her anger, and she turns into what looks like a scorpion. And again, because why not?
easier
Yeah.
to do with animation than it would be with a real actor. So
Yeah. I thought it was turning her into a Harada at first, but nope.
the eyes, yeah.
Oh yeah, but
know-
this is way cooler.
Yep.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This
When she
reminds me a
turned
lot of Worf turning into an arachnid.
He didn't turn into a spider. Barkley turned into a
Yeah, that was
spider.
Oh,
Barkley.
you're right. It was Barkley. Worf turned into something too. He's like a Feklar monster thing too. Yeah.
He yeah. Well, no, he
He
turned
was like
into
a super predator.
more of a early Klingon, like their version of what would be a caveman.
Exoskeletal and oh boy, that was terrifying. I wonder if they got a stuntman for that or if they actually just made Michael Dorn run around the ship in all that weight.
Oh,
He's a big man.
He is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tendi runs amok. She smashes through Kayshawn and Ransom like they were not even there. They freak out. She runs to the mess hall. She starts attacking things in there. And the Redshirters show up to be like, we have to do something. We can help. And Boymore's like, do something. Let's help. And Jennifer walks in and starts giving like a passionate speech to the other crew who are there. And then a second later, Castro does it. And then Casey does it. And now all the crew are like, what are they doing? They're all talking over what?
They're all giving speeches.
Yeah, like that's not going to help here. And
It's
Boymore
like-
calls him out on it.
If you're playing D&D with multiple bards and all the bards are talking at the same time, it doesn't matter what your charisma is, it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, we've all met people like that in work situations, right? People who like talk a big game, but when it actually comes to do stuff, they are useless. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Period.
what we get to, and then Boymore chastises them for not doing shit, and then he runs in, gets Tendy's attention, and flips over, gets attacked. He flips over some tables and such, like pretty
Yeah.
dramatically. It was cool, and like tells Mariner and Rutherford what's going on. Explains like it's an Ataxian mood cube. Oh, I have an idea.
Yeah, they explain what she did, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, that's what that sounds like."
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
totally
So-
shows off his brass here. It's great.
It also shows off that he really is made for these types of jobs, right? Like he knows this stuff. He would have shown the proper deference to the stuff. He's a great character for these roles. So he again hops over a table, runs to the replicator, and gets a bowl of beans, and waits until the Tendi runs up to attack him. And then he dumps the beans on his head and makes a goofy face. The Tendi looks very surprised. He runs to another replicator, asks for a birthday cake with candles of varying temperatures. Stands in front of the Tendi.
Or was it
smashes
varying
his
luminescence?
face. I thought it was temperatures, but
Could be.
he trips, smashes his face into it, and the Tendi like has to suppress a chuckle. The Redshirters are looking from the door, horrified. Like, what is he doing?
Mhm.
Right? Like, he's trying to make her change her emotions, guys. It's a mood shifter. Makes sense here. He catches on fire. He starts smacking his arm to put it out, whatever. And then he goes and yells at the replicator, like, a ton of food orders, like chicken nuggets, hamburger patty, whatever. It's just like a diarrhea of the mouth of order.
I'll tell you what it is.
Go.
It is a taffy honey shrimp soda corn steak chicken nugget crispy lemon rock candy chili gravy chocolate sundae hot.
Oh yeah.
Now available for a limited time at Wendy's.
And then it sprays. You remember that short trek with the ensign who found the queen on the ship?
Yeah. That was Tilly
Remember?
and Poe.
Yeah.
Oh, that was her name.
And they
Poe
were
was the
ordering
name
all
I
those
couldn't
food.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of, with the food just coming flying out of the thing at points, right?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Oh yes.
Boymore gets pinned across the room from the cannon fire of food from the replicator, and the Tendi loses it, and she shrinks back down to her normal self. And he's covered in food goop. She jumps into the food goop and lays down next to him, and they like hash it out like they talked. And the lower deckers are finally reunited. The four of them are happy together, at least.
I would say this is the second episode in a row where changing somebody's mood saved the day. Because
Yeah.
in the Duplers, we pissed off
Duplers.
that guy, and
Yes.
he figured his shit out.
Yeah. Changing the mood was the what's the word I'm looking for? When it's what drives the plot. Oh, jeez. I I'm getting old. I don't
There's an
know.
audience member out there who knows the word. They're going to post it as a
Yeah.
comment.
Well, I'm going to be 44 tomorrow, so I'm definitely feeling it. Like,
Well,
brain
early
is
happy
just
birthday.
Early
simply
happy
shut down.
birthday indeed,
Yeah,
Jay.
if you're listening to this, we're recording this September 17th.
So Jay's birthday was 2 days ago by the time of this posting.
Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
that's about right.
Say happy birthday to Jay.
me.
Happy birthday, Jay.
And it was fitting that
No.
one of
In the
things
comments, like listeners, please say happy birthday to Jay. That's
when it was
gotta. I
fitting
gotta.
that,
Directions unclear, Dag.
right? Well, in Boimler, one of the things he replicated was a birthday cake, so it feels special, kind of. My daughter made me, my youngest one made me a cake, and I said, yeah, we should put candles on it, and you can help me blow out the candles. And she said we should put 44 candles on it. And I said, woo, not that many. We don't have to do that, like a few.
Fire hazard.
God, yes.
Anyways, we cut to our next scene, which is Ransom and Keyshawn regaining consciousness after getting knocked out by Tendi. And they're like, man, how long were we out? We have to find Rumdar. And dude floats by and behind them in the window, and Keyshawn notices it. And then they both notice it, and he's literally just a personicle outside. Like, he's frozen stiff outside.
Keishan says Shaka, a reference to Shaka when the walls fail, a sign of failure or dismay.
I think in this case it's more dismay.
Yeah, well, I think that's might be their way of saying shit.
Wait, no, Zinda, his eyes red, he said earlier. That was the dismay when they'd lost him. And now it's Shaka. Failure. They failed to down them in what they were supposed to do.
Of course, the dude's just floating around in space, and he lived, like, again, why not?
That's not a first in Star Trek or a first in sci-fi, really. Like, Dargo in Farscape gets shot out in space a couple times, and he can survive in space for like 30 minutes at a time or whatever, and it's not that big a deal. I don't know. It's not crazy. We know Borg
Star-Lord.
drones. Yeah, Borg drones survive outside all the time.
Yeah. Thor in Infinity War was out in space for how long? And then he got pulled in.
Brock
I don't know,
Samson,
I just-
Venture Brothers.
Yeah, so we find out very shortly that Rumdar is not dead. Ta'ana doesn't know how the guy's still alive, but he's still alive after she cracks like some frozen ice off his nose, and he like kind of comes to.
The absurdity of the show, I love it. Like, yeah, he's just floating in space, but he's still alive.
And here we find out how he got out in space. He thought he was using the bathroom.
It was an airlock.
Not great, not great.
Oh.
And then before he's transported off the ship, he asks Ransom for the ship's codes, all of them.
Yeah, no, that's 16309, right?
8675309.
Oh, I was doing the Reliance code.
Yeah, the Reliance prefix code.
Yeah.
Right. And I gave a different number.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's not just the Reliance prefix code anymore. It's Jenny's Starship's dialing address for the Stargate.
Nice.
Now, can you say 8675309 without singing it?
I just did.
Let me hear it.
8675309.
There you go.
I
Okay.
can do it. All right.
867
So we go back to
5309.
we go back to the planet, and we see that Rumdar has been beamed down. The Pakleds are happy to see him, and he announces that I wasn't really a refugee. I was a spy, and I didn't even tell you anything. Freeman plays it up the same way Riker did, compliment their intelligence, butter them up a little bit, and they just start talking like a bird, or singing like a bird. And Freeman sees the opportunity, says that he was indeed very amazing, like whatever, like we didn't learn anything about the stuff that you weren't supposed to tell us. What kind of stuff weren't you supposed to tell us so I can be even more impressed by you? And then he goes, oh, we're gonna try and smuggle a Veruvian bomb onto Earth. Then she calls him a master spy and they beam out.
Yeah. They feel good, so they feel accomplished, because I think with the Pakleds, I'm starting to see that their thing and how the crew is going to get out of hot water with them is the complimenting. It seems like that's their weakness or Achilles heel, is you compliment them on what they're doing, and that's how you gain their respect.
Yeah, manipulate them by complimenting them, right? Like treat them like equals to their
Yeah.
face, and then manipulate them to do the things you want. And that seems to work. That's what Riker did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Until he beamed off Geordi. And that's essentially what Freeman did here to get info. So it worked for both.
There's two cool moments there's one moment that I feel like we skipped over. We didn't mention the crimson, what was that crimson weapon?
Crimson Force Field.
Yeah, he comes in asking about the crimson force field, which was presented in the Samaritan Snare.
Yeah.
But here he mentions that they're going to smuggle a Veruvian bomb on Earth. Where have we heard Veruvian before?
Wasn't that from just a couple episodes in Lower Decks that they were mining the ore of it?
Correct. That's Veruvian ore. So now we know what they were up to with the ore. They were mining it to make a bomb.
Notably, though, the Titan crew members even noted that the Pakleds are not advanced enough to make a Veruvian bomb themselves, so somebody needs to be like helping them out on it.
That was pointed out. So who's the somebody? Will we figure that out
That's-
by the end of the season?
Who are their allies?
Well, is there a somebody though, or is Starfleet just once again underestimating the Pakleds?
That
It
could go
be.
either way.
It could be. I wouldn't be surprised it could go either way. It would be nice to be like, we're the people behind the Pakleds, and it's the smart Pakleds.
Yeah.
So it's still the Pakleds.
I hope that's.
but it's
I hope
the
that's what
smart
happens.
ones.
Well, it's just like the group of Vulcans that split off from Vulcan. They became
The Romulan Star
and-
Empire.
You know,
Yeah.
honestly, the Vulcans who went super logical should have changed their name so that the Vulcans who were still emotional and like all down with that didn't need to.
Ooh, okay.
So we end up back on the Cerritos, and we've got Tendi apologizing for requesting the anomaly consolidation duty. She apologizes for her rampage. You know, Mariner finally sucks it up and goes, you know what? It's not that bad. It's just our job. It's not that bad. It's part of the fun of Starfleet. Whatever. They were being too dramatic about it. Her and Rutherford are being too dramatic about it. And your positivity is something we should have fed off of rather than trying to stamp it down. Which is a very mature thing for anybody to say who works in a team, right? Like,
Right.
it's a good approach, and then they hug it out.
Yeah.
And then they note that she smells like a slug-digested scorpion, which is also very probably true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really the smell of adventure.
So, with this, there's a lesson to be learned, and it seems like each of these episodes kind of has that G.I. Joe moment at the end, where
It's a very
we're
Trek
learn-
thing to do.
Yeah, we're
TOS
learning is
had
half
them
the
every
battle.
episode. Yeah.
Right.
TOS was legendary for it.
So they were. I think Tendi gets harped on a lot for her overly positive outlook and attitude, and then big surprise, that's what they had to use to get her out of the Scorpion King mode. So they kind of learned something there.
Yeah.
I love Tendi's positivity. It feels very refreshing to me in a
Yeah.
media environment where people are dark and cynical and jaded about things all the time. She's the opposite, and I love it. All right, we cut back to the Redshirts making their way, talking about like the bridge acting captaincy job or whatever, and they run into Boimler. And Casey just tells him, "You're no longer welcome with us. You can't sit with us." It's very Mean Girls-esque. Boimler doesn't seem to give a shit, which is good. The fact that they're building this whole persona around appearing captain-like and looking like other captains doesn't make you an actual captain, he points out, which is very true. And he says that it's kind of like they're wasting their time in this Redshirts club rather than, actually building their own personalities. Casey doesn't seem to care, but Jennifer Castro and the Zinti ensign all decide that they're out, so Casey's left on his own. Ransom just so happens to walk by, so Casey just like huffs and runs off and goes like, "Sir, I'd like to nominate myself for acting captain duty." And Ransom was like, "Sure, whatever." But he walks past Boimler and gives him like a true, honest, heartfelt compliment about like quick thinking, dealing with the mess in the mess hall or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
You showed true
even
leadership.
Even Casey looks truly jealous of getting that kind of compliment. So
Yep.
it was good. Any thoughts on this scene, guys?
I was just really proud of the way that Boimler stepped up for himself instead of just
growth
ignoring
for him.
that. Yeah, he he's definitely like paying more attention. I mean, the whole episode was really just a really nice way to feature Boimler on his own, and to show the lower decks people like, or his fellow compatriots, Tendi, Rutherford, and Mariner. Like, if Boimler had been there, would he have been the one that got needled in the face and zapped? And, you know, would he have been the one that turned into the Scorpion? Or would he have leveled, or would he have countered or foiled Mariner and Rutherford's dismay? And they all would have just done the tasks and it would have been fine.
I think they would have just done the tasks and been fine. And with this scene, so I think that we have a tendency to underestimate Boimler, and he can act on his feet, and he does know how to get out of these situations, and it shows what he learned, and shows us that the all talk people are not going to get things done, because they walk in and all they had were speeches and not action. Whereas Boimler, when it's time to perform, he performs, and he's done that more than once.
Which again, we've all seen people like that in work situations too, right? Like a manager or a VP or a director or something that gives a good talk, gives a speech, but when it comes to actually getting things done, they delegate, or they're not there, right? So those are people who are hard to follow as subordinates, right? You need actual leadership, and leadership means getting down in the trenches sometimes. So I think that this shows us more about like the work culture of Starfleet, much in the same way that the Boimler Effect episode did last season, right? Like a micromanaging dictatorial style is bad for work. Mm-hmm. So is in this case a leader that doesn't actually lead. So I like that, and it's very topical, right? Like right now everybody's going through changes in their working because of the working from home or COVID pressures or all that. So
this moment,
re-examine it.
This moment contrasts nicely with the despair that he felt when they went to that diplomacy planet in the first season, and like Mariner knew everything, did anything, and then in order to bring his spirits up, set up a Ferengi so that he could feel like he did something. But when he's despairing, he's like, you know everything, and you're so smart, and you're so capable, and here I am by the book, and it doesn't get me anywhere. And now what we're seeing is the emergence of, I think, a more balanced officer who definitely still sticks to the books, but knows how to improvise and adapt when it comes in a pinch. And so, you know, Boimler, I'm not sure how he's going to end up in that statue, you know, 1,000 years from now or whatever. Right. But we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
Speaking of scorpion mood monsters, I've got one that keeps looking at me through the door. So
we're nearly done, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's sorry.
I'm telling her.
It's fiance aggro. No, she probably heard me.
No.
Here right on the door.
You guys have a very unique love language.
Don't worry, Big J. We're nearly done. We've got like 2 scenes left to go.
Yeah.
So our penultimate scene is Freeman on the bridge talking to Starfleet. Everyone did a good job at the Pakleds. Everybody's talking about like, we reported the Veruvian bomb. It's all good stuff. And she tells Ransom, you want to go get a drink? So Ransom looks at Casey and leaves him the con. And he stands up and walks to the captain's chair and sits down. And then the shift ends, so Shax shows up and tells him to get the hell out of his chair. I mean, delightful. Perfect. He was acting captain for like a minute.
Yes. Yeah. Half a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him more credit than that. I think he was probably like lost in his head for a second there, just like the genius of sitting in the chair. But yeah, still pointless.
And I have to assume that Ransom was like, totally knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. It's like, here, kid, have 15 seconds. Don't destroy the ship.
He seems like the kind of guy. And then Shax comes in and he's like, out of the chair.
Well, we know Ransom doesn't like brown nosers because he's got that one lieutenant that follows him around and like is really sucking up to him. And Ransom doesn't pay him any attention. So
now we go to
Stevens,
probably the second best scene.
One last
you're
thing,
still talking. Sorry.
Casey is given orders by Shax to go clean out Airlock 17 because Thrumdar did something unspeakable in there. I want to know more about what Pakled unspeakables are like.
Is that follow-up duty for anomaly consolidation?
Is it duty? Is it duty though?
It's duty. It's definitely duty.
All right, and then we
Use that
go
duty.
to our last scene, which is the lower deckers back in their bunks, talking about all the action that Boimler missed, and Boimler seems to have legitimately missed hanging out with his friends and doing that job.
Mhm.
And Mariner pulls out a sub-manifold casting stone that she smuggled out of Shax's pile. Mariner notes that they can use it to broadcast their voice to other planets, and Tendi jokingly suggests, "What are we going to do with that? Talk to Armus?" Which is hilarious that everybody knows what Armus is and don't go to this fucking planet because it kills people like Tasha Yar. But
And they
then we
prank
go-
call him.
it's so good. We go to Varga 2, or Vagra 2, and Armus is sitting there alone on the edge of his little pool, looking kind of sad and wishing for somebody to torture. And then the voice calls him a big pile of crap from the sky. And people, it's like a prank call. You can hear people in the background of the call laughing, right? And it's perfect. He looks so mad. He's
I
going to
will
skin
kill you
people
with a
on.
flake of my power, or evil. I am a skin of evil, evil.
He even trips and becomes like a puddle that has to like snake itself back into the main puddle. It's great.
Tripped over a rock.
Very good ending. Delightful. Good callback to an old ass episode.
Yeah.
Something that we haven't seen ever since.
We haven't
So,
seen Armus since 1988, so it's been
I
33
was
years.
one.
Yep, skin of evil.
33 years. Congratulations if you're younger than that. Okay. If you're older than that, you're not as old as you think you are, because you're still cool.
Yeah. So overall, I give this episode many stars. Like it's at least 4 out of 5 sad Zinti stars.
4 out of 5 sad Zinti stars. That's a heck of a rating right there. I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 Cerritos hats.
I think I would go with 8 out of 10 Tendi Scorpions.
Did we see a Cerritos hat and I missed it?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
really.
he had a Cerritos shirt and a
Shirt,
badge.
yeah.
The badge hat. It's a silver badge,
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah,
but it
Rendar
didn't
had
actually
a
say
hat.
Cerritos, but it's on the
Yeah, it's a-
Cerritos, so
You're right.
that's what
I
I'm
want
going
one.
for.
I
Yeah,
want
no,
one.
you can
Cool, cool.
absolutely. There's gonna be merch. There's gonna be merch.
I like that. I mean, I think it's maybe a little silly, but honestly, why not? Because they're a second contact ship. So they probably regularly have dignitaries and guests and so forth. So yeah, here's the gift shop. You can get yourself some new Starfleet swag on your visit.
I mean, if you've ever been to like a military base, they always have like exchanges there where you can buy like swag if you have an escort to take you there. You can get like shirts that are appropriate and stuff there too. Even like Navy ships when they're at ports on in other countries, they will set up like little swag booths or whatever on the ship where you can buy stuff. It's neat. They sell stuff. It's like, you know, they have branded shirts and such and hats, and it's something for people to do.
I've never been on a military base or on a ship. I didn't know that was actually a thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's the thing. It's not like a full gift shop, but the bases do have like an exchange where you can. They're meant for service members to go in there and buy like their new uniforms, or if they get like a promotion, they go there to get their equivalent of pips or their whatevers. Right, that's all there. But if you're just a guest on the base, you can go there and buy stuff too.
Okay, nice.
Well,
Cool.
do we have sponsors to thank today?
Yes, we do. And you know, I had that open before we started, and then for some reason my dumbass closed it. So
It's
here we
okay.
go.
Happens to me too.
So thank you to our sponsors, Stephanie Baker, Patreon, and Anchor. A new one here, Nora Hickman, who just subscribed to our Patreon. Thank you so much, Nora, for being a new Patreon donator. Then we've got S. Tam for Patreon, Anne Marie on Patreon, and Jim Cook on Anchor. And if you saw our video and saw our backgrounds and want to see the screenshots that we were talking about, you can get those from John at cygnus-x1.net. And thank you, John, for all your work that you do there. Your screenshots are literally a part of our show.
Oh,
So yeah,
well,
that's it.
everyone, I don't know about you. I want to thank the audience for going boldly with Beyond Trek podcast, but I'm going to go to Wendy's.
Wait, before you go, Dag, did you ever watch Pirates of Dark Water? Because the Armis in the last episode, or in this episode, looked like the Pirates of Dark Water, like the black ooze. Now that I think about it,
Wow.
it's got that tentacly look to it. If you've never seen the show, you should.
Look
and
it
if
up.
anybody's seen it,
Early
if anybody's
90s.
seen the show, that's it.
Had a very distinct animation. It was nice.
You're talking about Wendy's. Now I'm hungry. I haven't even had dinner yet.
Go take your fiance out to Wendy's. That's a great night date.
Yeah. Chicken nuggets.
Okay.
Street corn.
Honey, you want to go to Wendy's?
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.